Hey guys, it's Mike. Very excited about today's video. There's been a lot of talk about pay to earn and NFT characters, and so what I'd like to discuss today is how it would affect a game like Raid, GodForge, and even Guild of Guardians, and discuss why I think it's the revolutionary change that is coming to a gacha game once somebody figures it out. Thank you guys for tuning in today. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do so. It means the world to me. I'm trying to get into a place of monetization and we're getting closer every day, and I really appreciate the support, so thank you. Today I want to discuss how we can enhance these gacha games to really the next level. And I think what is going to be the evolution of these games over time, it's just going to be a lot of things that have to be figured out in the meantime. So what we're going to discuss is bringing the idea of NFT and blockchain into a game like Raid or GodForge, and even discuss a little bit of Guild of Guardians and what it would mean for the game and how it would affect it. We're going to look at both the positives, which are really exciting, and also the negative pitfalls that you could run into that you really have to watch out for to make it work. But I do think with the delicate balance of the two, this is the next step in gacha games and mobile gaming. And when somebody does figure out how to balance these things, I think that game will take over in a major way. So the first thing to discuss is, what is an NFT? An NFT is a non-fungible token, which is basically a serialization, a non-duplicatable asset that's digital. So you could literally have a serial number on each and every one of your characters that make them non-replaceable. They have their own place on the blockchain and they have their own value, so to speak. So let's start with a game that's already trying to do this. This is Guild of Guardians. So this is a character, Tianlong, that's in the game, and he has a serial number 13. Now this is a character that can be bought and sold over the blockchain, and is an NFT character that can move from account to account and has a value on the marketplace. So if we jump over into the marketplace, you can see these Tianlongs are available for sale, and I can buy any of them and they could be on my account within minutes. Now there's a value to them. They're trading in Ethereum. They also have an in-game token, some other things, but this is a way for you to acquire champions in this game. If you really want a specific champion, you could. It's also a way that you could play to earn, where maybe you play the game and you grind it out and you earn specific champions, convert them into NFTs, and then sell them on the open market. So going back to a game like Raid, which has significantly more characters and there's a lot more grinding that goes into the game. I think we've talked about it. I played this game for 4 years and I put together quite the account. If there was a way for me to convert these characters into NFTs and sell them off, I'd be able to recoup a lot of that time and so forth at the end of this game. Or be able to sell my entire account, for example. But that would be a really neat way for me to be rewarded for grinding out different events, such as fusions or fragment summons or things of that nature that maybe a lot of people don't want to do. And your pay-to-win players could go ahead and say, you know, I don't want to do this grind. I'm busy right now. I'm just going to wait till the character comes out and buy them for $10 or $25 or whatever it is. From the folks that are actually doing the grind. So it is an interesting idea, and it could be a huge benefit to the player base. So when you talk about the whales that are buying ridiculous amounts of shard packs and things of that nature, and then they have a chance of getting the character they're looking for, versus being able to spend significantly less and buy the character you're looking for, which is kind of a benefit to the player base. The whales would probably not have to spend quite as much money to do it, which obviously would affect Polarium, and we'll talk about some of the pitfalls. But if you were able to find the balance where you could have these characters on the market, where they would self-regulate their price with the right marketplace, basically by supply and demand. How many of them are available? How many are for sale? You know, how heavily sought after is this character? So your better characters would come with a bigger price tag. But it would be an interesting way to monetize a game like this, where you're putting a lot of time and energy into it and maybe getting a return on the back end. Which I think would be a huge win, especially overseas in places where, you know, job opportunities may be limited, where mobile gaming and pay-to-earn games are actually a really credible way of earning an income. There was a game that came out a few years back called Axie Infinity, and the gameplay of this game was atrocious. Like, it was really bad. but it was super popular because it introduced this NFT idea, and you were buying and selling characters that would make the game easier. I don't think it was ever fun, but it would make it easier, and then by winning you could actually earn money and buy and sell other characters for profit and things of that nature. But there were people that were making a living playing this game. This game, Raid, I think GodForge, have the ability to be significantly more engaging and way more fun, and I think the opportunity there is even better. This technology would also allow you to potentially trade characters between accounts. So let's say you've pulled your 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th Yoshi the Drunkard, and you're like, hey, I really want to get the Lysandra that I was aiming for. And another account didn't have this champion but wanted him. The potential would be there for you to actually trade that character with another player. And you could limit that where maybe you could only trade players amongst your guild or amongst said friends, like a set group of people or people that you've invited to the game or referred. But you could make it where somebody that is pulling duplicates of a champion could actually spread those out among other people that don't have that champion. Looking at some of the ways this could work, there would be a specific currency or token that you would associate to creating an NFT. So you'd have an entire free-to-play account where you'd have the characters in-game, and then potentially during tournaments or events or things of that nature, you could earn this currency free-to-play, or you could buy the currency and actually convert your characters into NFTs. Once they're converted into an NFT, at that point they would be able to be traded, sold, or bought on the marketplace. So it wouldn't take away from your free-to-play experience. You could totally ignore the entire fact that NFTs even exist in the game if you wanted to. But if it was done right, you would be able to grind out those rewards and over time take your best characters and turn them into NFTs. So if you had like Death Knight, or I have Ninja on this account somewhere, this would be a great example. He was a one-time pull, and I think Plarium actually upset a lot of people because I want to say they brought him back into the game. I don't know that to be true, but I heard rumors. But this was a one-time event where if you were playing the game during Ninja's launch, you got Ninja. And if you didn't play the game during that time, you could never get Ninja. Well, I don't know that they kept to their word on that. But if they didn't, at this point you'd be able to actually convert Ninja into an NFT, and for a new account starting out the game that wanted this character and had no opportunity to receive it, they could have an avenue to go buy it. And I keep saying buy, but I mean you could build up on a free-to-play account other characters to sell on the marketplace to earn the tokens or money to go buy the character you want. So it still could maintain a free-to-play even though there would be an exchange of monies. On the flip side of that, we talked about Plarium making less money on shard packs. There'd be two folds on that. The first thing is there would be folks like myself with Guild of Guardians. I would buy packs to summon characters so that I can convert them into NFTs to sell them on the market for a profit. So your shard packs would probably still sell pretty well. The other side of that is the marketplace itself with every buy and exchange is going to have a fee. And if Plarium wanted to be a part of that, they could also be basically getting that revenue as well to offset some of the losses that they might take for the lack of shard pulls. The key thing here is going to be supply and demand and whether or not the characters themselves can maintain value, which is really going to be dependent on how many are in the market as well as how many players are looking for those characters. And one more thing on the positive side before we break down some of the pitfalls that'll definitely be problematic and need to be worked through. At the end of your experience with Raid or any gacha game where you've accumulated a pretty good amount of characters, having the option to sell or exchange this for something, I think would be a huge benefit, because I think there's going to be kind of gacha fatigue. When you spend a lot of time, such as I did with Raid, accumulating characters over 4 years and doing this thing, and then all of a sudden you kind of feel like you're pot committed, where it's like I played this game probably at least another 6 months to maybe even a year longer than I really enjoyed it. And the reason for that was because my account was where it was and there were new fusions or new fragment summons coming to the game every month. I felt like I had to keep up and I didn't want to fall behind. And so you get kind of pot committed where you have this mentality of I'm not even having fun playing this game anymore, but I feel like I have to. Where at least at this point, had the opportunity for NFT blockchain technology, I could sell off each individual character. Potentially I could sell my entire account in a way that is legitimate and safe. Right now, I think you can get permanently banned for selling an account, and there's weird ways of doing it, or I don't know. It's something that I looked into briefly and was immediately turned off to it, because there's not really an escrow purchase where it's like, hey, I give my login to somebody, but do I get the money first, or they just take my login and now they have my account? Or on the vice versa side, where somebody's giving you money, they're like, are they just going to take my money and leave? Am I actually going to get this information? So there's a lot of weirdness in that space, whereas like if it was actually regulated and taken care of from the company itself, I think it would be a huge benefit. So if you're like me, you're thinking, Mike, that's amazing. Why is not every single game doing this? So let's talk about some of the pitfalls. Some of the struggles you run into going back to Guild of Guardians is this character, when I purchased mine, was actually worth, I think, $150. So the market here has diminished and fallen out from underneath me in a major way. Now this is a new startup game, so there is that is to be expected. But the struggle here is there's just no demand for the characters in this game. It's just not as big as Raid. There's significantly less characters than Raid. So there's no real, and even in the gameplay aspect of this game, there's nothing that I can't beat with just standard free-to-play characters. So for the market, there's not really a benefit to buying this character other than having this character. Now in a game like Raid Shadow Legends, you have a significantly larger player base, you have a significantly larger hero pool, and so a lot of the challenges that are present in Guild of Guardians and the token trove would eliminate themselves naturally with Raid. One of the biggest problems I see with this kind of technology would be if you were able to convert these into NFTs and you have your pay-to-win players, they basically would just have every character. They wouldn't be required to summon, they wouldn't have to do fragment summons or fusions or anything. They could just go buy every single character, which ultimately is only going to affect PvP, as well as some of the tournaments where you're up against other players trying to achieve first place or something like that. For those whales out there that had every character, they'd have all the options. But for the rest of us that were free to play or whatever the case is, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Like if you had a bad pull, say you pulled a Razin right after you got that initial, you get him for free after you fuse him for the first time. You could actually put that Razin up for sale, and maybe somebody's trying to upgrade their Razin, they need their 4th copy of him or whatever, and you can sell him for 10 to 15 bucks. And then with that 10 or 15 dollars, you could go buy yourself, I don't know, I mean, anybody you want. Who is this? This is Wither the Crown. You could buy yourself a Wither or a Drexar or some other character that would benefit your account. But the struggle is going to be similar to like Galaxy of Heroes with Star Wars. Everybody has every player. So you have teams that are the optimum team. You're not trying to say, oh, I don't have these players, so who could I replace them with? There's not really theory crafting. It's here's your team and go. Now, I haven't played that game in probably since before I came over to Raid, so it's been 4 years. So if they've changed, I apologize. I did have a lot of fun with the game for probably about a year and a half, but it got to a point where it's like everybody has the same team. You use the same exact characters because the synergy in the game is too high. Whereas here, there's a lot more theory crafting and so forth as far as trying to put a team together that works and is cohesive. When every player has every person or every character, it kind of takes away from the fun of the game. So that would be something that would have to be looked at and balanced out. Maybe there's a restriction on how many characters are pulled in the summoning pools or how many characters are coming into the game per month. Something along those lines. I think they already have things in place to when you start to upgrade characters using duplicate copies of themselves, it basically burns those other copies so they come out of the marketplace. So things like that could be ways of balancing that out, but it would definitely have to be something that would be figured out. Secondly, we discussed the monetary aspect from Polarium or from the company Fateless or whoever decided to do this. There's money in shard pulls. When you go into shard packs in the game, that is going to be always nonstop. They're trying to sell me something. I'm broke. I can't afford it. But when you go into these special offers and you could buy I guess that was one right there, where you could buy primal shards, you could buy these shard packs. This is going to be a pretty big money maker for a game like Raid. Now, these packs could potentially still be moving in the event that people are trying to buy these with the idea like, okay, let's say a legendary goes for let's say $15, and you say, well, if I buy this and I happen to get a void epic that's worth $3 to $5, or a void legendary that might be worth $50 or $60, or something along, I might be able to recoup my losses with this pack. potentially. This pack probably not so much. You need a lot more sacreds just due to drop rates. But if you were able to do that, you'd have more people buying packs in order to try to make money, especially during extra drop events or double drops or heightened chances and things of that nature. But potentially this would be a loss of revenue for the company. Now, you could probably start looking into, like we talked about, actually doing on the exchange where you collect a fee to offset that, where you probably have a revenue source you don't have now. You could also sell tokens or a currency in the game that would allow people to create the NFTs, and that would be another revenue a stream that is not available in the game now. So I think there are ways to offset this, but in a game like Raid where it's so money first and so profit driven, I don't think that they will ever do it, just because it would probably take money out of their top line. But that being said, a game that is more focused on player experience, I think it adds an entire new dynamic to a gacha game that currently is just untapped, because it's very engaging to try to go and summon characters and try to sell those characters for a profit, recoup your losses, try to buy another pack, and keep on keeping on. I had a lot of fun the first few weeks with Guild of Guardians before the market fell out from underneath me, doing basically that. I would buy the currency I needed to create NFTs. I would go and buy the summoning stones. I'd go summon the characters, create the NFTs, sell them on the open market, use that money to buy more. And it was just a cycle where I got to grow my account pretty big, pretty fast. Didn't make a lot of money because I put a lot of it back in, but it was a fun way to engage with the game that was completely different than actually playing the game. And I think that's where that game kind of fell down for me, is the gameplay just wasn't that fun. Another issue that you'd really have to work through is power creep. And the reason for that is these are now, if they were, digital assets that have a value. So let's say, for example, you have Arbiter as a champion, and all of a sudden you make her significantly more available. Her value on the marketplace is going to drop, because supply and demand is a thing. And if supply goes up, demand goes down. So you could basically devalue somebody's digital asset by making a bad decision for the game. The other thing is, if, let's say, you have Arbiter, but a new version of Arbiter comes out that's just better. And that happens over time with power creep. Like, the game has to grow. There's new content that's harder. You create Guardians that are better so that they can beat the new content. But what will happen over time is Arbiter's value will depreciate because she's not the best version of the thing that she does anymore. There's a new character that does more. And so that is a thing. Now, you will have people that just want to collect all the characters. You'll have people that are seeking, low serial numbers. I want serial number single digit or number one. You'll have different avenues where she still will have value in the marketplace. But by having one change from the company, all of a sudden you could have a character drop its value in half. So that'd be something that have to be significantly thought about. But you can't really avoid power creep like we talked about. As the game grows 3, 4, 5 years, you need new and challenging content for in-game players. So by not introducing harder content, because your player base has to stay the same, it really is going to stagnate and become a problem. Now, there are obviously ways around that. You could increase your gear, and instead of upgrading new characters, trying to keep the character pool similar as far as their initial power, but you upgrade the actual gear itself and bring that up to increase for those higher end dungeons or whatever comes in game, and that way the NFT is associated to the character themselves, not to the gear that's on them. So I do think that this is the next step in gacha games. I think it'll take your player experience to a whole new level. I do think there's a lot of things to balance out and figure out, but once you got that delicate balance figured out where it works, you have the market to support the players. You're not power creeping assets into no value, as well as you're keeping the gameplay exciting for those characters or for those players in the free to play, as well as for the pay to win, even when they have all the characters. There's a lot of pieces there to figure out. I'll give you that all day long, but I think the excitement behind what could be really gets me to a new level. Now, I know GodForge doesn't have any intention at this time, and I don't think Raid has any intention at this time of moving in that direction. but it could be something that is introduced to the game at some point in time in the distant future. It obviously would have to go through a lot of work, a lot of energy and effort to make that happen, but I think that more and more players that get exposed to the NFT market and the pay to earn aspect of games will start to see their time in a different way, and they will try to value their time in game. And so games that could be ridiculously fun, like GodForge, looks like it's going to be an absolute blast, might get a little less attention just because it's not offering that pay to earn aspect, which is unfortunate because, you know, on a lot of games it could be a really cool benefit. That's about what I got for you today. I appreciate you tuning in. I know this one was a little bit out of left field here, but it's something that I personally am kind of excited about. I'm pretty plugged into the crypto market and NFTs and so forth, and we are in that bull market right now, which is pretty exciting, although the last few days have been a little rough. If you're in, you know. And but thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.